The GK and Kaya partnership I don't think it's only on the pitch. And really, if you look at us just socially, like look at the social classes, I mean, GK guys, I mean, the way football just brings together people from different backgrounds is something that I don't think many other things can.
It's another Football Friday. Welcome to Across the Line. It's a special episode of the show because it's not just Chris and I waffling on about football. This time we actually have 5 individuals to join us, from the Kaya Academy, and they get an opportunity to really speak to us about what it's like to be a part of youth football today. And we've talked a lot about youth development and the next generation of football players, but this time we get to hear it from them. And it's quite a fascinating chat that we had with these 5 gentlemen, and personally, I learned quite a bit from it, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we give the youth players a voice because it's all well and good us speaking about youth football, but we're not the ones actually participating in it. Right. So I think it was important that we gave them a voice and an opportunity to express some of their views, and they do so extremely well. They're a bunch of very well-spoken, eloquent, articulate individuals who have very firm opinions on how things should be done here in the Philippines.
I think that's something that really stands out in this conversation is how well thought out their ideas are of the subjects that we talked about. And there are 5 of them in this episode. So there's a lot of mic passing going along, and there might be some changes in level and such, but bear with that and really take in sort of what they're trying to put out and their ideas and their experiences that they've had throughout their footballing careers so far. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up was that these guys have played together for 6 years, and it really comes through what it means to them to be playing with one another for an extended period of time. And that's not something that everybody gets a chance to experience. You know, it's only something through football that you get that continued bond that you guys have to stay together, work together, fight together, recover from defeats together. And you can tell that has had a significant impact on their personal development.
I think one of the interesting things about this particular conversation is the fact that, you know, we as adults might prioritize other things. You know, it might be winning, it might be trying to chase that college scholarship or prioritize other aspects to the game. But really, when you strip it all down, these kids talk about how fun it is to play with one another. Yeah. And it's really, really important that we don't lose sight of that as educators, as parents, as people involved in the youth football community, that we always prioritize fun and the social element and all of the trappings that come with playing the beautiful game. You know,
there's a lot of parents who listen to this show, a lot of parents who are guiding their kids through their footballing journey, and you can see that the impact that parents have, even if it's not your parent, how other parents are acting, they can see it. They notice it. It's not something that they're oblivious to, and they can see what effect that has on their peers, you know, and they're very much astute to everything around them, the whole environment, and they know what helps them move forward. And to me, it was very much of a what's the right word for revelation? It was like, you know, I really learned a lot from how to push potentially my future kid into this sport and to any sport for that matter.
And I hope what we really from this interview, what we're hoping will come of it is that these are conversations that if you are a footballing parent, your kids are having these conversations with their teammates. Yeah. You know, they're having those conversations. So listen to what they have to say, because I think it's really, really important in terms of how you as a parent, you as a coach, you as a director, you as a mentor, how you influence these kids really, really matters, both positive and negative. So take that responsibility and really make sure that you influence in a positive way. And they outline how they think they should be treated. They outline how they would like to see their instruction and how they would like to be supported. And I hope a lot of parents who listen will take heed of their callings. And I hope this sparks some conversation amongst some of our younger listeners as well, because I hope that they're having these conversations with their peers and their teammates.
So please do enjoy the conversation with Enzo, Diego, Mick, Teo, and Juan. We definitely enjoyed having them here in the studio and speaking with them and listening to their ideas. And if you like this episode and you like the podcast that the content rather that we produce here on Across the Line, please do subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple podcasts, and please do rate and review the show. Share it with your friends. Get the message out there so we can talk more about the things that matter in football. All right, so another Football Friday. Enjoy the episode. It's a special edition of Across the Line today. We don't have one guest, not even two guests. We've got 5 individuals who have joined us in the studio today, and we're taking advantage of the fact that there are, no classes ongoing, and we figured it would be the best possible time to bring in these individuals and to have a conversation with the next generation of standouts in the Philippine stage.
Yeah, so we decided that we wanted to talk about youth football, but have a different kind of spin on it. Obviously, we've given our thoughts on youth football and how we think we could push youth development forward. But ultimately, we have some of the young, fine prospects of our academy here in the building today. How are you guys?
Good, we're good.
Good.
Great, thank you.
Just for the purpose of the listeners and the viewers at home, why don't you introduce yourself? So, Diego, would you like to tell us a little bit about you? I've actually got a set of questions. Tell me your school, your position, your age, favorite team, favorite player.
So I'm from Xavier School. I play for the U17 KFC Academy, and I'm a midfielder as well. One of my favorite teams I support is Real Madrid as well.
Real Madrid. Okay. I don't think that's going to go down very well in this room, just so you know. So next thing we have Mr. Camahort. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Juan Camahort. I'm 13 years old and I'm a center midfielder for the U14 KFC Academy. I'm a big fan of FC Barcelona.
Is it uncomfortable sitting next to Diego right now?
And my favorite player of all time is Andres Iniesta.
Ooh, nice choice.
Good choice. At the back there, Mr. Corbet.
Well, Enzo Corbet. I go to Brent, under 15 for Kaya. I'm a center back midfielder. I support Marseille, and my favorite player is Dimitri Payet.
Ooh, good pronunciation there. Very nice.
So I'm Mick. I go to ISM. I am the striker of the KFC U15 elite team, and my favorite team is Liverpool. I've been supporting them my whole life. And
Is it because your dad supports them?
yes.
Okay. All right.
And my favorite player is Sadio Mane.
Sadio Mane.
I'm Teo Celdran. I'm his twin brother. I'm a center back for the U15 Kaya Elite team. And my favorite team would definitely be Kaya FC.
That is the correct answer, right?
Who's your favorite player ever?
Probably Lionel Messi.
Oh no, I thought he was going to say me.
I don't ask him too much.
Second favorite. Thank you, Teo. But thank you for coming in this morning, guys. It's something we wanted to do for a long time, isn't it? We talked about getting parents in, getting some of the players in. So I guess one of the small upsides of having a virus is you guys are off school at the moment. So we have the pleasure of bringing you guys into the studio. I want to really start at the beginning for you guys. And I just want you to sort of talk to us about how you started to play the game, really, because you guys have come through the system here in the Philippines, and I want to find out a little bit more about how you started. So let's begin with Juan. How did you start playing here in the Philippines?
I started playing football when I was about...
So Juan, just try to get that a little bit closer to you, like a fist away from your mouth.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I started playing football when I was 2 years old. My dad really loves football. Like, it's a real passion for him. So as young as I was, he taught me to play football. And I guess I just can't imagine not playing it. I've been playing it my whole life.
Okay, that's great. What about you, Taya? How did you start the game?
So I think I started out when I was around 2.5 years old also.
Yeah.
I think I was in a park one day when I noticed like there was a academy training right beside me. So the next day, my mom decided to put me in it. And ever since then, I've been like watching and playing football my whole life.
Who was the academy?
Mondo Nieto.
Mondo, which is now Mondo International, is that right? Is that yeah? But I think they're still going. I think
Yeah,
they're still,
yeah. I see them in the sevens.
Like the
football
sevens,
league,
right? That's the same group. Okay, so that's when you first started.
Yes.
What about you, Diego? How did you start off playing the game?
So I started off when I was around 4 or 5. I joined my school varsity team. Then that's when I started to develop the love for football. But at first, I wasn't necessarily sure if whether I should play. But throughout time, I was able to grow closer to the sport and be able to know that football really is one of the sports that I really want to play.
This was in Xavier? There's a
Yeah, in
varsity
Xavier.
team at
In Xavier.
4 or 5 years old already?
Yeah, for the nursery team and the ones that are about to enroll to the team.
Oh, wow.
They take sport serious at Xavier.
Yeah.
They breed champions early.
Awesome.
What about you, Enzo?
Well, I think I started about 3-4 years old, like most of the people here. And again, I was inspired by my dad. He would play with a bunch of his French teams.
Right.
A bunch of French teams around the Philippines, a bunch of his French friends. So growing up watching that, I felt like I wanted to play as well. I started off playing with Brent, the varsity team of Brent, at a very young age, maybe 7 years old, when I started going to Brent. I hopped around a few academies, and then I finally found home in Kaya when I was under 9. So
Okay.
here I am today.
I'm guessing you similar to
Story,
to Mick. Had to say
Shout
Ash?
out to Coach Butch. He's the one that got us into football.
Okay.
Coach
Yes.
Butch. I know Butch. Yeah.
So he was your first ever coach. Is
Yeah.
it? What sort of things were you doing when you were 3-4 years old? What sort of drills did Coach
I
Butch
think
have
it
you
was
doing?
mainly just getting to like know the game, getting to love it.
Yeah.
It was mainly just like running, like dribbling around the cones.
Yeah.
A bit of shooting as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that usually.
Okay. And what was it about football that
I don't know,
grabbed
'cause
you? That obviously we know your father is heavily involved in football. He thinks he's a player or was a player, right?
So like
He keeps telling us he was a player, right? Well, we saw him in those over
we saw him.
50s sevens league. We're not too sure how good he actually is, but he always tells us back in the day he was really good. But is that what sort of initially grabbed you, like his interest in the game, or was it something
Yeah,
that you
that's
just
why
picked up yourself?
a bit of it, and then also since I've always been really hyper when I was young, I think football's really like the best fit for me ever since I just want to run around, have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So I want to find out a little bit more about and sort of dig deeper really into what aspects of the game that you really enjoy with football. Okay, so let's take Enzo Corbet for example. So you said you started off at Brent and you jumped around a few academies, but what was it about playing the sport that particularly piqued your interest?
Well, I think the part that really attracted me to the sport was, it just gets you out of the real world, you know. When you have a ball at your feet, nothing else really matters. A lot of people say that, and it's true, because when you do play, when you're in a game, that's all you think about. But later on, last year, I found out another part that really attracts me to the game is the fans. Playing for the under-16 national team in Indonesia, the atmosphere against Indonesia. In Jakarta, the atmosphere was insane. 4,000 fans, and obviously, that's not that much compared to pro clubs, but 4,000 fans for a 15-year-old, 14-year-old at the time, that's something to behold.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something I'll never forget. So I think that's what really made me want to go pro. Like before that, I was kind of uncertain, but after experiencing that, I think it was like a turning point in my future career.
Interesting. I was actually going to ask about that, about who among you were thinking about going pro, but maybe we can go back to that in a little while. We'll ask the rest about what is it about the game that you guys really love.
So yeah, I love everything about the game, but like since I was young, I actually attended the first ever Kaya Academy training.
First ever.
Oh yeah, they were there.
Yeah,
You seen
I
the
was there
pictures?
since day one.
Yeah.
Ever since, I just loved it.
It's interesting.
I just love like going outside and just having fun with your
Yeah.
friends. Yeah.
I want to go back to Enzo. Enzo, you jumped around a few academies, right? You found your home at Kaya Academy. Do you mind explaining why that is? What was the difference between Kaya and the other clubs that you went to?
Well, what had me jumping around was, I guess, the lack of playing time. Even though I was pretty young, I felt that I was deserving of a spot on the team. But I was with MFC at a point. I was maybe 6 years old, 7 years old, maybe even 8. But I remember complaining to my mom that I wasn't getting enough playing time and that the players that were there from the beginning were the ones who were in the starting lineup. It was set in stone. And I was upset with that. I jumped around. I think I played a bunch of other clubs, but it lasted super short, maybe a training or two. And then I found Kaya in Cuenca. It was a small group of people. It wasn't elite. It wasn't very high. It wasn't high intense. It wasn't high intensity like it is today. But I think that really developed the love for the game and for the club.
Juan's another one who jumped around a lot. We were talking off mic earlier. He was a little bit flaky. as a youngster. Tell me about some of your experiences, because you started off playing for a number of different clubs, didn't you?
So I started off playing with my dad because my dad used to play football when he's younger.
Yeah.
So I used to play with my dad, and then so my dad, when he was younger, as a lot of parents today, they used to play for MFC because that before was basically like the only club.
Yeah.
Okay. So my dad was looking for clubs for me, but I was 2 years old and no one wanted to take me in because I was too young. Until my dad, his old coach Tomas Lozano, let me in. He let me play there for one summer camp, and I just loved the game. I just continued playing ever since. I played with I went to MSA, Aguila MSA, for about 2 to 3 years until one game, because I wasn't really getting much playing time. Like Kirby, I wasn't really getting much playing time since I was a lot younger than a lot of my friends. Until Coach Chris saw me one game and he asked me why I wasn't playing. Then I said, "Oh, I don't know with my coach. I just haven't played yet." And right after that game, the next week on a Friday, I joined Kaya, 2013, never left since.
Do you want to tell the full story? Because he's left some bits out, or shall I fill in some of the blanks? So basically, I'd met Juan on a mini vacation about 2 weeks earlier. I was actually at Mick and Teo's house in Batangas. So we were having a mini vacation, and then this young upstart just showed up, and he was very good with the ball, very handy, very technically good. He must have been, what, 6 years old, maybe? 6 years old, something like that. And I was like, "Oh, wow, you're really good. Like, oh, maybe you should come and train with us one day. Your friends are there." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, but I'm already with MSA, and I've been there for a few years now." I said, "Okay, cool, no problem."
Yeah.
And then that following Sunday, we played at Nomads, right? It was at Nomads. And everyone had left, and he was the only one left at the field. And you could see he was like really upset. And kind of similar to Corbet's situation, it was all about he didn't get a chance to play. I said, "Right, enough's enough. You're coming to us on Friday." And you've been with us ever since, pretty
7
much,
years.
right? So yeah, lucky for us, because he's been with us for a long time now, and he's having a good time, I think.
Yeah.
And then Diego, obviously you said you got your start with Xavier, and I know Xavier is probably a different. Certainly, the younger age groups, they have a tendency to be. They push their kids through the system quite quickly, don't they? And it really is competitive from the get-go. Is that something that you enjoy? Because I know as a young kid, you were very competitive. You know, I remember you from being 6, 7 years old, and you were very competitive. Is that something that you embrace in the Xavier program? Is it something that attracted you initially to playing the sport, or was it something else that grabbed your attention?
Actually, the competitive aspect of the sport is what really got me into it, because ever since I was young, I never liked to lose. Even in training, even just in the simple drills, every time my group would lose or I'd just not be able to do the certain drill that we needed to do, I'd normally get mad really quickly.
Yeah.
So like ever since then, I was like realized, okay, if I'm this competitive about this, something like this, if I'm competitive about this sport, that means it's something I really care about, and it's a sport that I really want to do. And ever since then, I just tried to bring that competitive aspect every single training, every single game, just to be able to not just be able to bring it out in myself, but also to be able to somewhat bring the competitive spirit to my whole team as well.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because just to so you know, a little bit of background with some of these guys, like in specifically the 05 group, Mick, Teo, and Enzo's group, Xavier's school were especially strong, weren't they, in the younger age groups? And I remember seeing them as probably maybe 7 or 8 year olds, and they were absolute monsters. They were just destroying everyone. I remember. Do you remember the game we played under?
We lost like 4-0.
4-0, right? You were probably on the bench, right? Or
Can't
sort of there
forget
and there.
that game. No way.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like horrific. Like, it's absolutely really. We had a good team, right? We had a pretty good team, but we were just so far behind. And one of the things that I think is quite interesting, which we sort of touched upon a little bit today, and I would like to know what your guys' take on this is. A lot of those kids are now with us, aren't they? And they're now in the program.
Oh, really?
And I think one of the interesting aspects with that they felt was there was too much emphasis placed on winning at the younger age groups, and it wasn't enough on development. And I think we ended up playing them a couple of years later, didn't we? And we won. I think it was like 6-7-1, wasn't
Like
it?
a turnaround, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
It was
wow.
a complete polar opposite in such a short period of time. I mean, there's a lot of studies that sort of talk about how at a young age there are different factors that play into why kids enjoy football. So really what I wanted to get to nail down with you guys is what is the thing about football that attracts you the most? Is it the winning? Is it the fun? Is it the fact that you get to interact with your friends? Like, I would love to know what it is about football specifically. Like, if you could only pick one thing, what is the aspect of football that you enjoy the most? Mick, why don't you go first?
I think it's having fun because that's why I started and that's why I keep playing. Because like seeing my friends are training every day, it's like motivates me to do better and have fun playing football.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly like having friends that play the same game as you.
So it's more the social element for you. Really?
I mean, it's more of a combination of everything, but that's like the most.
If you're gonna pick one, that would be
that's
your
what
one.
Stand out for me.
That's quite interesting.
All right, Teo, what about you? We haven't heard from you.
So it would probably be just the feeling of like playing with your friends on the field, like just like I just find like games really fun because you get to play with your friends while also being competitive and you have something to work for, like a league or something. Like you have a goal, and when you like accomplish your goal and win the league, you feel super happy.
Okay. What you, Diego?
Similar to them, it's just like being able to having that sort of family, like your team. It's like a brotherhood you assemble with everyone in your team, and at the same time, being able to be together and work towards a common goal is just something that really attracts me to the game. Because for me, what's important in youth football is how people are able to develop their relationships with their teammates. Because being able to develop those relationships with your teammates is what enables you to be able to succeed as a team and individually as well. So that's why I feel that playing being with the group and being with the group that you're able to be happy with and be able to stay close with all the time is important.
Okay. Enzo?
Can I say joy, or is that too general?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think the thing that attracts me the most, if I had to pick one, would be the joy that I get with the ball at my feet. I mean, again, like I said, I'll mention again, when I have the ball at my feet, I don't think about anything else. It's just, whether I'm dribbling, I'm passing, I'm shooting, I'm aiming I'm at the goal, it's a feeling that can't be matched, just having one thing on your mind and one thing only, something that just gives me absolute joy. It's crazy.
Okay. What about you, Juan? You want to grab the mic?
So like similar to Aspi or Diego, I've had the same team in Kaya since I was like 6 years old. With Kirby, Mick, Teo, and other people, and we've grown together ever since before, and we've had fun together. We've gone through our bad times together, and we've recovered for that by improving, and there. So I just enjoy being with my friends, and I enjoy having fun, but as a unit and going up and down together.
A lot of these guys have played on different teams. For example, your school, you play on some of you played on school teams, some of you still do. Have you had any sort of negative experiences with being within the team? Because you obviously talked about, I love being in a team, I love the camaraderie, I love the fact that I can socialise with my friends. Have you been on other teams where the focus hasn't been on that and it's been on something else and it's had a sort of negative impact on you? Have you experienced that at all, Juan? In any of your other teams?
Well, in my former team, like in MSA, I didn't get it. Me, about 3 of my friends didn't get any playing time. Like I remember 3 games specifically where we didn't play at all. We just went there and sat on the bench the whole game.
Yeah.
And so we were like kind of excluded from like the real team. And so, like you said, I wasn't happy about that. And that's why I'm forever grateful that you found me, Coach Chris, and that I was able to go to Kaya.
There's been a briefing going on prior to this.
You shouldn't have come in late, because you would have heard me. Listen, you got to talk me up a lot, boys. Okay, make sure you talk. But you know what's quite interesting about what Juan is saying there, in my opinion? He was 6, right, when he had this experience. It's not like it's something that he's had when he's older, and it stayed with him now.
Yeah,
and he's 13, turning 14.
Yeah.
So 7, 8 years down the line, he still holds that feeling. And it's sad, isn't it? It's one of sadness, because I'm guessing in your mind you think, well, I should be playing because I think I'm good enough, and you were a very good player even back then. But also that even if you weren't good enough, you should have the opportunity to play the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be everyone should have an opportunity to play. Football is a game to enjoy, and it shouldn't just be because you're an elite athlete or your team has a greater chance of winning without you in the team. It shouldn't be that way. And the fact, I think that Juan has highlighted that he's had a really negative experience as a 6-year-old, but he can still remember that feeling and that moment. I think that's quite sad, and I think people should take responsibility for that as coaches and as parents as well who are involved in youth football, and really understand the gravity of the decisions that you make. And because, you know, not I'm saying it was me, but I mean, had we not have realised that you had not been playing, and had you not expressed your discontent, you know, we might have lost Juan to another sport, to another game maybe, which would have been a travesty, because he's a wonderful player.
And 6 years in, you're still here, enjoying the game, right? Developing every day. That's exactly what you want in terms of, you know, a sport inside a country. Anybody else here with a negative experience, perhaps, that you guys have experienced in the last few years?
Go on, Diego.
So the negative experiences I encountered was that a lot of the players that played on those school teams, they just treated as like they'd had a lack of commitment in a sense. So ever since then, I was like, okay, every time I was like, I have to be able to attend every training I can, every game I can, and put in as much work as I can, if that's what I really want to achieve. Because every time, as we grew older, we'd realize the importance of commitment to the sport. Because as you grew older, you realize that you need to put in the work if you really want to succeed. So over time, I'd realized that, okay, because my school team had a lot of my teammates in my school team had lacks of commitment, I realized that, okay, I need to be able to tell them, or be able to find a way to be able to instill that commitment in all of them as well. So I realized that one of the negative effects is that a lot of teams now, they don't have the same amount of commitment as some people do, which causes them to not be able to get on the same page. So
we mentioned before that you think it's across. It's not just a thing for your school, for example. It's across other clubs, other teams, other schools as well. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's like a cultural thing? Like, do you think it's because, let's say, for example, academics is obviously a priority within the Philippine community especially. Is it a case of, as you get older, parents are pushing kids, now listen, you can't be foregoing your academics, you need to make sure you focus on that? Or do you think it's just not a football culture here, so people aren't really as invested in trying to develop their football skills as they get older? What do you think it is that contributes to that lack of commitment as people seemingly get older?
So the aspect of just as you said, grades really do matter to a lot of the parents. So that could just cause the parents be telling their children to focus more on their academics, which causes them to have a lack of commitment. And at the same time, as people grow older, a lot of people tend to have other priorities, and they tend to go out with friends a lot more compared to as they do. So that causes them to skip out on training. So that's one of the aspects, is that a lot of the people in the Philippines don't give as much priority to football, and as of now, like, the culture in the Philippines isn't as driven towards succeeding in football compared to other nations as well.
Very, very intense, Diego. You know, I can feel like, you know, you're very committed to the game. Is this something that you shared all throughout the team as well? Is everybody this committed to, you know, playing for Kaya and developing your game? So I see Juan saying yes. Enzo?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Because one of the things I think is quite interesting with that is, I don't know all of your academic backgrounds, but I know that most of you, if not all of you, are very, very strong academically.
Some of you are smiling though, so I'm interested to know how you guys are juggling.
I know they're very good academically, and I know they're extremely, extremely committed, highly committed. So there's no reason that you can't excel in the classroom and also excel on the field. There's no reason why you can't. I know, in fact, all of them I know are excellent students as well as very committed footballers. How do you find the balance, Enzo, between, you know, getting that, okay, I'm making sure that I'm studying, I'm making sure that I'm doing what I need to do in the classroom, and then balancing that off with making sure that I'm committed to development as a footballer also?
Well, I think for me, if I play good on the field, it's like it translates to the classroom and me being good in the class. And I think it's like that for everyone else. Just, I don't know. Yeah.
So like for me, I think that you should only focus on one thing at one time. So like, say you're playing football, like there's no need to worry about like I have a test tomorrow or something like that. Just focus on like what you have to do like on the field, and then vice versa. Like in the classroom, you only focus on your task. So yeah, I think just being like 100% focused. The task you're doing is like good for prioritizing what you're doing.
Yeah, so I guess your approach is more sort of compartmentalizing what you need to do at that specific time. So if you're in the classroom, you're doing science or whatever, but I'm focused on my science class. When you're at training, you're focused on training and you devote that time. Okay, that's quite an interesting approach. What about you, Tay? I know you wanted to say something there.
So something I found like super important as I grew older was proper time management between like your school and academics. So say I have like a test on Friday, and I know beforehand that I always have training on Thursday nights, and then I put off studying until Thursday night, and I already know that I'm not going to do well with the test.
Yeah. So then, what steps, what measures do you take then, Teo?
So I always have to like plan ahead. So I have to know what I'm doing during the week and when I have free time. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday when we're on training.
So that's the time that you. So when would you allocate time to your studying for that test on the Friday then? If
Probably the day before Wednesday, because I don't have any training there and I have the whole day.
Yeah, so then Thursday, I've got training, so I'm not going to dedicate any time to it then. I'm going to be useless if I try to study Thursday night, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. Okay, that's really interesting. And I think where that's also really important, the two elements to that I think are important. One is the commitment level, which for me, I think that transmits in later life.
Right.
The people who I knew who were committed, and not just to football, they might be committed to something else. It might be dance. It might be their academics. It might be any pursuit that they choose. That they choose as sort of adolescence and then into adulthood. I always find those are the ones who are sort of more. They don't bail out on a dinner date. You know what I mean? They don't. They're not the one where they said, "Oh, we're going to shut up for drinks tonight or a birthday party, and we'll be there."
Right.
Those ones who are a little bit flaky about attending training or we'll be there, coach, no problem. Then you don't see them. They're the ones who invariably let you down in other aspects of your life, and for me it transmits into adulthood. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I think that's something that I feel with some of these kids. And then the second one is massively on the time management thing.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. And one thing that's really impressed me specifically to the group that we've got is their ability to manage their time.
Yeah.
Because again, I think we've got a really good sample group of 5 kids here. Maybe I've handpicked the best group in that regard. But I would say the vast majority of our kids are very, very good in the classroom. Academically, very, very strong. So, and then from that, I think, as Enzo alluded to, it translates. If you're good in the classroom, I think you're good on the pitch. If you're good at focusing in the lesson, listening to what the teacher says, making good notes, when you go on a Thursday night and attend a training session, you're going to be focused.
Yeah.
You're going to be attentive. You're going to retain that information because you're used to paying attention in class, and then you're going to be able to deliver that message that the coach has given you on a Saturday or Sunday when you play your games. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
Then it also transmits in other aspects of your life. If you're confident on the pitch and you're scoring goals, if you're scoring goals, you're going to be confident in the classroom, right? You're going to be confident socially. Maybe with the ladies, for example. Maybe it affects all aspects of your life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think they've highlighted 2 really important points there, and something that is a hard balance to address. But when you do that, I think the dividends pay off.
I think it's incredible. I mean, when I was your age, I would say I was the opposite of what you guys are right now. And that's the reason why I'm not playing at your level.
And that's the reason why I was late today.
Exactly.
Right? There we go. Prime example.
You guys are, I'm setting the guideline for things to avoid, right? I mean, I'm good at talking. That's what I do now. I mean, I'm not a football player, and there's a reason why. I didn't dedicate myself the way you guys have, and I can see where that has taken you guys, and to a certain degree, it's like, I wish I could have, just a little bit, It didn't have to be the whole way, but it would have done me some good. These are lessons that I'm learning much later in life that you guys have already, absorbed at teenage years. That's great for you guys. I'm happy for you guys to hear that.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I want to talk about other sort of negative aspects or things that could be better, because as I said at the top of the show, I think it's important that we give the youth a voice.
Yeah.
And let them express themselves. And I know one of the issues that you had last year was that you didn't play enough games. You simply didn't play enough games. I look at the YFL Youth League, and again, coming back to your commitment thing, teams were pulling out. Teams would say, no, we'll forfeit that game for whatever reason. Maybe they just didn't want to play us. I don't know. But that seemingly is something that has frustrated you guys, and we've talked about this at length off mic and in previous practices, etc. But I know, Diego, you talked about it a little bit earlier. What specifically to that point? How has that sort of frustrated you? The fact that you haven't had enough games and enough competitive games in the sort of last year or two.
So I feel like the YFL League is the one that really what pushes us.
Yeah.
Because that's the one we want to win every single year. Knowing that there's 2 seasons in a year, we feel that we're gonna do our best, and that's what we work for every single year. So having the lack of games being cancelled and at the same time being pushed back almost every single week, we feel like, oh, okay, I guess, okay, or work. What was the work that week for? But we realized that, okay, we need to keep working and working, but it's also just hard to keep working and working, knowing that, okay, we'll be able to play, we target to play as much games as possible. However, the lack of games also is affects us as well, because that's what we want to do. We want to see how our work in every single training translates to how we play in the game, how our work paid off. So the lack of games affected us, because it makes us sad in a way, because that's what we really want to do. We want to play, and knowing since everyone here was my teammate, we all had that passion to win. We all had that drive to win. So just not being able to play games is what saddened us.
Because one of the issues that we experienced last year was there was probably 2 or 3 teams that were competitive, right? Very competitive, and we had really good games. And thereafter, I think a lot of the games were, I don't say easy, but they weren't as competitive as they should have been. What message do you think that either the Football Federation, the YFL, or just people like myself who are involved in the football community, what do you think, what steps do you think they could take in order to make it more competitive? Juan, you've got your hand up. You obviously have an answer to this.
So like you were saying, we have like a lack of games, and when we do have our games, we often play against the same teams on and on again.
Yeah.
Ceres, MFC, Loyola, those teams. We play against them a lot. I think it would be great for the PFF to have like a national league, which we could play against Visayas, against Mindanao, teams we've never played against, to gain more experience we won't improve by just beating the same team 7-0 every game. We'll improve with those competitive games, playing against teams we don't really know. Like about 2 years ago, we went to Iloilo, our team.
Right.
And it was such a great experience because we played against like Iloilo. It's like the footballing nation of the Philippines. We played against Barotac. We played against great teams there, and we gained so much experience as a team. And we were able to feel what it's like to play not only in our comfort zone, but to go out of our comfort zone to play against teams we've never seen.
Because there are a couple of competitions, aren't there? There's obviously that Palarot Panza, and then obviously there's close as I could get, and then
you have the PFF U15, the regional.
Yeah.
but we all know what happened there, right? I mean, that was.
It's not a club. It's not a club tournament, and that's the thing.
Yeah, and it's also, and again, what some of the experiences that I know you guys have encountered is, it was let's call it a select group of players that were eligible to play it, but it wasn't an open selection, right? And then I know obviously there's players in our team that weren't called up who obviously potentially should have done. I don't know if it was the case also for the other regions, but it seemingly was just pocket clubs selecting their players and then participating under the banner of whatever the regional FAs. So also with that, even if it was a selection, let's say if it was a Davao selection, that's not a formal team that's composed of players who've played together on a regular basis. Let's say if it was a Davao selection and they're pulled from all of these different locations, they probably would be put together for just this one competition, and then they'll go back to their clubs, which doesn't really promote that kind of sustainable development or community, exactly, which is something that is by listening to our players already, that's something that they really, really want, and it's something that they have a strong desire to experience, that level of community. So why not have a regular and consistent national competition? And for me, having it at U15 is redundant. It's one age group, right? Why are we not doing this at under 11s? Under 12s, under 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 17s, 18s. Have it every age group.
How many games are you guys playing in the YFL?
8 before the final.
Okay, all right. So that's not too many.
No.
Yeah.
And then you
Not
might,
at all.
and it's split over 2 seasons. So maximum we might get maybe 15, 16 games. Is what we're saying
That's like
at the moment.
reaching already.
That's why what our coach wants to like. We have a lot of friendly games, so we could like we played against a Taiwanese team. We're trying to like play against teams we've never played against and just keep improving.
And that's obviously something that you guys really look forward to. I can tell from what you're saying, and it's the progress as well that I enjoy listening to, is that they're more interested in the progress rather than the results, right? I mean, obviously the game against Barotac, that was a tough game for you guys, and it was pretty physical as well.
Yeah,
Do you recall that game?
The game against Barotac,
Yeah.
because we don't like when we played against Barotac, we saw like a new side where we really had to play physical. We had to like play rough because the teams from there, they're playing really rough. So you really needed to like after that, ever since then, Coach Lamas really tried to push us in terms of intensity and like our physical manner, because we wouldn't really like try and like bump people or whatever.
Yeah.
After that, he's always trying to enforce to be like, if you have the ball, no one's gonna get it from you.
Right.
Like that type of mentality.
Awesome to hear. Now, there's something that I believe Enzo and Teo wanted to mention earlier on. Did you guys want to jump in on that, or some of the aspects that you guys want to see in Philippine football?
Honestly, like I just think one thing everyone here like needs to work on is just to promote football more to like really young kids. It's like almost all Filipino kids here like start out dribbling a basketball or something, but then they never learn to play football until like later on, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
So I just think like they need to have like more like camps for little kids here, promote it more like also professional. So because something like kids do is they come to the games, and then once they come there, those are their idols. They want to be like that. So that's how they like learn to play football.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's been 10 years since the whole explosion of football in the Philippines, right? And the Azkals. Did that play at all a part in stoking the fire or the passion for the game for you guys? Go ahead, Diego.
I feel like the Azkals being able to improve every single year and be able to get farther in every single competition they compete in is really what's helping the country be able to improve their football and become more of a footballing community. As we see throughout time, like how Azkals are able to be able to bring in more fans, make more people be able to watch those games. That's what is important for the people, because a lot of the time now, a lot of people have the athletic ability, a lot of the people have the talent to be able to be really good in football. However, it's just that they're not able to be able to develop their skills in time, and at the same time, with football not being one of the not being as famous yet in the Philippines compared to basketball, it doesn't open as much chances for the people and the kids to be able to go professional, not just in the Philippines, but go abroad in such as the States, England, and wherever they want to play.
Yeah, and I think all that really just comes down to investment, not only just time, but money as well. Because without money, you can't really bring in like the good coaching. Without money, you can't, organize bigger competitions, higher quality competitions. So I think if the Philippines as a whole, if the Philippines as a footballing community was able to invest more in the sport and promote it more, then that would just be nothing but positives for us.
How would you want to see that investment, Enzo? Where would you like to see that? Let's say, for example, we wave the magic wand and we could, get unlimited amount of funds that we could invest in youth football. Where would you like that to be spent?
I think it has to be from the top down. First of all, with PFF. I mean, obviously, it has its flaws. Everyone knows that, and I experienced that firsthand. But working your way down, like even some clubs, they're not funded enough. But I mean, when it comes down to that, it's really just people putting in their own money, people promoting football and promoting their clubs.
Do you think it would help if we had like more facilities, for example?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, because you look at basketball, right? One reason that it's super popular in the Philippines is because you look on the street, everyone's just dribbling. There's always a hoop hung up somewhere, whether it be a lamppost, or just the side of a house, a building. There's always somebody dribbling a basketball. Whereas football, I mean, it's not as easy to play.
Yes,
because you mean on the street, you could, right? Barefoot, but you're gonna fall, you're gonna get scratched. I mean, your body's gonna take a toll playing in the conditions that you could you could play basketball in those conditions much more easily.
I think there's twofold with that comment. Like, one, I would like to see more people engaged in like futsal and street soccer.
100%.
Because I think that is something that's easily, without much investment or without much promotion, is something that we could do and get what you were saying, get more people actually touching the ball. In order to do that, though, there still needs to be a little bit of investment, which we talked about on previous podcasts, things such as actually getting balls being dropped in these locations, having barangays, having government level initiatives that will incorporate young kids aged 3, 4, 5, 6 and having them experience touching the ball, from a very early age. And I think that is really, really important. The problem that we will still encounter, though, which is, speaking to people, for example, who are in like a Payatas, for example, even though they have a futsal court where they play, it's still taken over by barangay basketball. They still take it over, right? Even though they have the slot, they're like, no, come on, it's our turn. We're gonna play basketball here, and that will forever be a problem, I think. But I definitely think it's something that would help tick a number of those boxes, especially with what you're saying about getting an early introduction to the sport and maybe even toughening up some kids. Because I think a lot of the players that I've experienced need to be playing in that sort of street soccer environment. They need to experience falling down. They need to experience getting grazed knees and getting beaten up by the older kids. Because if you go to Paris, right,
everyone eats, sleeps and breathes football.
And where are majority of these players coming from? They're coming from the cages. They're coming from lower socioeconomic backgrounds.
A perfect example for that would be Benji, Sian, all the GK guys. I mean, Julian.
Do you want to talk to them about? Yeah, talk about them.
Yeah,
Enzo.
I mean, well, speaking of like the lower classes and how development, like the player just has to be honed. Because look at Benji, super talented. Like the ball at his feet, it doesn't leave. It sticks to his foot. Crazy guy. But if not for GK, if not for Kaya, if not for GK working with Kaya, then those talents would never be honed and he probably wouldn't be where he is today.
Does someone want to talk a little bit about that partnership that we have? Do you want to talk about it, Diego?
Yeah, so being team, now that I'm U17, I think everyone from my teammates last year that were GK are all in my team again.
Yeah.
So as we grew older, we're able to establish that bond and we realized that, okay, we're able to build something here. We realized that yesterday, me and some of them were talking, we're like, since the U15s just had a recent outreach program to the GKs, we're like, okay, we could do something. We could look for a way to be able to promote football in a way. So we were thinking like, okay, maybe on a day we're free, we could be able to teach football to people who are not able to, who don't have a court, who don't have a place to play football. Just being able to introduce a futsal, any basketball court, because as we know that football fields aren't as, there are not as many football fields here as compared to other countries. So we could just decide that we were coming up with ideas on how we could be able to give back and at the same time be able to promote football in a sense, just by teaching the people and promoting football in that community.
Because the Gawa Kalinga and Kaya partnership has been ongoing for maybe 6 years, maybe something like that. And it initially started with, we had a pocket of maybe 3 or 4 players that were really, really good, a lot of ability, and we brought them in. So we had in your age group we had Sian Galsim,
Philip,
Benji,
Jeffrey was the first one, I remember.
Jeffrey, Ting came in, and they did phenomenal. It's probably about under 12s, under 13s,
11s. Yeah, that's when they started.
And then we had a couple of younger kids came in shortly afterwards. We had Jimmy Gabriola, who was U9, I think, or U8, and Kevin Haddap. And all of those players came in and immediately made impact, like big impact straight away. Phenomenal players, technically very, very proficient, but just lacked probably, I would say, tactical nous, because they weren't used to playing on a bigger field, playing in a more structured setting. But they've been in our system for, like I said, 5-6 years now, and you've really seen them flourish. So, for example, Benji and Sian were in the under-15 national team when they last year that went to Indonesia, right? Yeah. So those 2 players went and played in that competition, AFF and AFC under 15 championships. So tremendous. And then the other guy who is in that batch is Julian Romero. He's the guy who cycles from Quezon City to our training sessions.
Incredible.
And he was our academy player of the year for under 15s last year. So these kids have come through the system and exactly what we've discussed. You know, they were exposed to football from a very young age, and then were able to be housed by our academy, and obviously have developed the other aspect of their game, and are currently flourishing. And I think that there are endless possibilities for those guys and other players who come through from that program. So just to shed a little bit of light on what they're talking about. Go ahead, Mick. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, so about the GKs, they have that mentality that they never back down. Like Julian, he'll fight for every ball, for 90 minutes straight. Yeah, that's one thing I like about their mentality.
Yeah.
Coming from that sort of background, they have that like street side mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that mentality is something that influences everyone. I mean, you see one guy on the pitch giving it his all, it just inspires everyone else to do the same. And I think going on, not just because, I mean, the GK and Kaya partnership I don't think it's only on the pitch. And really, if you look at us just socially, like look at the social classes, I mean, GK guys, I mean, the way football just brings together people from different backgrounds is something that I don't think many other things can. Like Julian, like the way when we visited the GK community, I mean, it's just something that I don't think many of us would be happy living in, you know. But seeing the way that how close we are to these GK guys, how often we hang out, how often we just go out, not on a football day. It's just that friendship, that bond that develops because of football. I think it's something that is like very important.
Yeah, special, isn't it? Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan. What do you want to say?
So I remember when Coach Thomas, he first brought in Jeffrey. So I started off with Jeffrey, came in Benji, and next thing you know, we had about 5 GKs in our team. And from the beginning, it was really amazing to see how at first, it was already mentioned, at first, they were like always like grouped by themselves. Okay. And throughout all of that, when you see us today, you see like groups and we're always hanging out with them. It doesn't like Kirby said, no matter like the different like backgrounds. Before we used to kinda like, it was like a bit like segregated. Now you see us hanging out with all of them. You see us hanging out with us, playing with them. Like during group things, you see us playing with them. And it's just really nice to see how from what happened at the start, we kind of saw them like they were something else, and how now we're like a brotherhood with them. Like we visited them, we played with our fellow GK friends there, and they also really taught us about the physical aspect of football as well. Because at first we were a bit of like pushovers, okay? Like we were technically good, but we were like a bit like weak.
Soft.
Yeah, so soft. They really taught us how football is not a soft game. It's like a physical sport. You need to be able to play rough in order to get somewhere. So yeah, they really taught us that as well.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? That we're sort of talking about how you obviously have your own ideas on how you would develop things, and you sort of touched upon some really key aspects of certainly my philosophy and what we're trying to do with the club. But how if that was replicated, let's say across number of clubs, could be clubs, it could be schools, and you kind of tap into some of those resources, you're going to find this amazing hybrid of players like yourself who have had the benefit of playing under really good coaches, right, having excellent tuition. You know, from a very young age, you've had instruction of what I would consider the highest level. But then when you temper that with kids who've had no instruction but are from a background that means they have to fight and they have to scrap for everything, all of a sudden you have this hybrid of high level football IQ, right, with high level technical proficiency in certain aspects, and then you temper that with this sort of street soccer element that comes with, you know, coming from these types of backgrounds and this strong mentality, and you create this hybrid of all of those things. It creates, I don't want to say a super team, but it creates this environment that is very, very conducive to create high level football teams.
Right.
Absolutely. If you were to mesh those two ideals in a really, really well harnessed, coherent way, you're going to have strong teams. And I'm not talking about just because they're here, but we've got good teams. And I think when you the amalgamation of all of those aspects in one group has led to them being successful. And I don't just mean on the pitch, actually.
Yeah.
I don't mean just on the pitch. I think I'm talking about this socially. I'm talking about how it impacts them as individuals, how it impacts them as a collective, and how it gains a completely different perspective to one that they would have if they only integrate with people from the same socio-economic backgrounds.
I think, that to me is the most important. Not everyone's going to go on to become professional players, even if, you don't know what the future holds in that regard, but the effect of being integrated with these individuals and sharing these moments and sharing these experiences has already shaped who you guys are as individuals, which is, I believe, the most important aspect of football. It's a medium for self-development, and you guys are obviously getting a lot of the positives of it and utilizing the negatives for lessons to be learned, It's awesome. It's awesome to see. In 6 years, I'm sure. Likewise for Benji and Julian, there have been a lot of things that they have learned from you guys and interacting with you guys, and maybe shaping the way they live their lives a little bit differently from those who they live with on a regular basis. So I believe that it's a mutual exchange that's happening between the two.
I mean, I want to just change gears a little bit with that, because I think one of the other aspects that is really critical in developing young athletes, young people, is obviously how your parents are. Yeah. How family members interact with you, encourage you, or negative towards you. Well, I don't know. It depends on the type of environment that is produced by parents. But I want to. We've talked a lot about parents, haven't we, on this show, and how they can have a positive and negative effect. What are some of the positive experiences that you've experienced? And I don't necessarily mean your own parents here, because I don't want you to either talk negatively about your parents or talk up your parents too much. But what are some of the positive things that you've seen with parents, and how have they helped you along your journey? Go ahead, Mick.
So for me, my parents have been really supportive, so I think that's a good positive.
Yeah.
That's why I think I want parents to watch their kids' games because like it's like showing your support. Of course, you want to make your parents proud of what happens in the game.
Yeah, I mean, your parents are always at the games,
that's
right?
Why I like it. And
all the time.
And like a negative thing, well, not really from my experience, but like I think from parents, they shouldn't really influence the decisions, or like they shouldn't like influence what their child's doing in the game. Like they can't say like shout like something to do, because like I think it could really play a big effect on the kids' decision making during game, and it could like ruin what the coach is trying to like give instructions, because the parents are also trying to overlap that and stuff.
Do you want to expand on that, Mick? Because I've talked about that a lot actually on this show. Is that something that you've experienced? I'm not saying from your parents. Actually, they're quite quiet on the sideline. Have you heard other parents shout things on the sideline, and have you found it distracting, or have you found it?
Yes, because like say you're in a situation where you're in like the midfield, and say you're in the box, and you wanna like same as before.
Yeah, go on.
And you wanna, and say there's like someone's open, you're willing to do like a good pass to get the ball, keep possession, and build up the play, but then the parents are like, "Oh, clear it." So yeah, I think it's good to listen to what the coach is doing and to not follow what the parents really.
Yeah.
Because it could like really influence the kids' decision making, as I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Enzo. You have something?
Well, I think too many people just look at that as too much of a negative, parents commenting on what you do. Obviously, if they shout at the coach, if they're having an argument with the coach, that's something that you don't want in a team. But for me, my dad, he's always trying to give me information. But when I'm on the pitch, it doesn't really translate at all. I don't hear anything. Everything's pretty much shut out. But once the game's done, everyone's going home. When you're in the car and your dad, I think most people have this experience of their dad, whoever it is, their uncle, giving them advice, tips after the game. But for me, like, although it could conflict with what the coach is saying tactically, I think I would look at that as kind of a positive, knowing that somebody does care about what you're doing, and it shows that they do pay attention to what you do. And just knowing that is just another sense of support that you have. So although you could look at it as a negative, I think there's its fair share of positives.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I like that. I think it's as long as the message is correct, right?
Yeah.
And the information that you're getting is good, and it's not in conflict or...
as long as you don't take in exactly what he says. I mean, just me knowing that my dad talks to me, that's good.
Yeah, of course.
But what he talks to me about, I just shut it out. I know he's gonna be listening to this at home, but
for sure. Yeah, you put your foot in it there. I think you should have stopped. You should have stopped when you had, maybe we'll edit that one out. Maybe not actually. No, we'll leave it in there.
Pardon, Papa.
Yeah. Love you, Dad. Go on, Juan.
I'm really grateful for my parents actually, and actually parents in general, because first of all, they're the ones that are guiding me, and like I wouldn't be in Kaya because they have to pay for it, obviously. But throughout all of this, like international trips, they always want me, like they're trying to give me what will improve me most. Like let me go to Spain, for example, to play there. Let me go to a tournament in Thailand.
Yeah.
So I think they see something that has potential, and they really want to like invest in it.
Yeah.
And all they really want for me is to improve and to have fun in what I'm doing.
That's great. What about you, Tay? Are you going to say something?
Like I've seen like a few examples of some kids like who are like really early on. They love playing football, but then their parents were like super pressuring, and they expected a lot of them at a really young age. Not on our team, but then so later on, like as it progressed, they kept pushing and pushing their kid, and then some of them like don't even play anymore because they're burnt out. And
Yeah.
don't like the game anymore.
You've seen that a lot with in your age group, I think, specifically,
exactly.
right? You've seen a lot of the really talented players.
There's like a lot of people who were really good before don't even like playing anymore.
Yeah. And how does that make you feel? Do you think it's
It
sad?
just
or?
feels like it's a waste, you
Yeah.
know. These guys could be like the next good football players pro for the Azkals.
Yeah.
Then now they just don't play anymore.
Yeah. What about you, Diego?
Oh yeah, the parents also play a really big factor because having that support just with everyone here, just being able. Last year we went to Germany and Switzerland for tournaments. Having that support from your parents, knowing that okay, they're putting their trust in you and trusting and supporting you that football is what you want. Football is what you want to get exposure to. Football isn't just always about just kicking a ball. At the same time, football is also just about being able to develop those values that you want. And those parents, not just mine, but everyone in my team last year. Last year was a year which really showed the strength of our team, the durability, and how much our team fights for each other. Because last year, our squad was really depleted towards the finals and semifinals of the tournament. I got injured and our other striker got injured. So knowing that the parents were still there to support us no matter what, having them be able to tell us that it's okay, that you'll be able to help your team in your other way, that made us realize that okay, our team is still really capable of succeeding. And throughout the Europe trips, they realized that this was a good thing for us because it helped us be able to become more responsible and help us grow, not just in sense of a football aspect, but be able to develop as people as well.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think, we have a lot of parents that listen to the show, and they, they listen to some of the things that we say, and like Enzo with his dad, don't listen to it, and they just end up doing their own thing, right? If you could send a message out to parents in general, I'm not talking about your parents. If you could send a message out to parents in general, what one thing specifically would you say to all the parents that are out there that you think would help people like yourself the most in terms of your development in the game of football? Do you have one thing that you would like to say that you think would help all of the kids in your situation improve better?
I'd suggest that they just continue to support your children, because once you don't support them and once they feel like, okay, I'm all alone in this, that's when they feel as if they're not capable of doing something anymore. So it's just, if through the support of your parents, every single game, if you're worn out, if you're getting tired, if your legs are starting to get heavy, just when your parents are there having to scream and saying let's go, and just having a community and a family around you, just being able to push you to go that extra mile, that's what really helps. Because as so many people say, what's really important is to have fun. Because once you're not having fun, you're not going to be able to succeed in what you do anymore.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Enzo?
just expanding on that, I think parents should push their child, but not push them to an extent where they're forcing them to do something. Because obviously, if you're being forced to do something that you don't enjoy doing, I mean, it's bound for failure. You're going to work so hard for something that you don't want, and it's just going to come crashing down at some point. So I think, yeah, if your son doesn't want to do it, if your daughter doesn't want to do it, don't force them to. Help them find something that they do enjoy doing, and once they find that something, push them, encourage them, and support them throughout the journey.
That's a great message. Thank you, Enzo. Go ahead, Juan.
Like what Enzo said, I think parents should really be like, they shouldn't be making the decisions for their children. Like the football players, the players themselves should be making their own decisions. Whether, like for example, I want to try and go to this place in order to improve. The parents shouldn't be saying like, oh, go there, because it can contradict what the player wants. Okay, so I really think that it's good that in our team, I've seen a lot of parents that they're always supportive and they're always like, they let the children do what they want to do, and they just, no matter what choice you make, they support you throughout that.
Okay. Because at the end of the day, then you have ownership over your own decisions,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And your own future.
Yeah, so there's no one else to blame but yourself.
But yourself. Okay, that's great. What about you, Mick?
I think there's a fine line between the positives and the negatives, especially because, like, yeah, of course, the parents, they're really supportive, and that's a good thing. They push their child just enough, not too much, because it can be seen as a negative thing.
Yeah.
And something I want to talk about is like during the games, it's good that like the parents are like cheering them on and stuff, as I said earlier. But then there is a fine line between the positive and the negative. So like, it becomes negative when they start giving their kids like tactics and stuff like that, because that should be let out for the coach. But yeah, it's positive when it's just support, pushing their child, making sure they do what they love, stuff like that.
Would you prefer parents to shout, scream, cheer during the course of the game? Or would you prefer parents to be silent and just watch the game?
Shout, scream, and cheer.
You would prefer that?
Yes.
You
because
prefer
it gives
that
you like
atmosphere?
motivation in
Okay.
your drive to do well.
But the only caveat with that is they don't instruct. That's what you were saying.
Because that's why we have a coach. That's the point.
Okay.
Encouragement, not instruction.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Something like I see kind of often, which I don't really like, is like when the parents always shout at the ref on every single call against him.
It's a big
like
one.
I had this one game this summer when we went to Salo, where we had a game where we played this team who was really good. I think they play in a league with like Espanyol or something.
Okay.
So we played them, and the ref during the game. So the team was. So we were playing them, and then there was like some controversial call or something where it was 1-1 at the time, and then there was a penalty or something, but then the keeper got a red card or something, so he had to get taken off, and then we scored the penalty, and then we won. So after the game, the parents of the other team rushed onto the field and they started cornering the ref, making threats. So
Oh wow.
they wouldn't allow him to get back into his car. So
Really?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Enzo.
Yeah, and I was watching a I'm sorry. Well, I was watching a short documentary on why there are so much less younger refs, and the big reason, I mean, there's pretty much only one reason, is that the parents and the influence that they have over the ref is just something that they can't handle emotionally. Because I mean, you'd look at them. What do you think they are? Robots? No, because imagine if you were doing something, you were doing your job as best as you could. You're doing your job with all the information that you've obtained throughout the years. But somebody who has so much less information, who knows so much less than you, is trying to instruct you, shout at you, tell you what to do, when they really don't have the right to do that. It's something that just burns you out. So
Yeah.
that's a big reason that there's no more.
And
older refs.
I think we've all been guilty of probably shouting at the referee.
Not me. Not me.
No, you're not a referee
No,
shouter?
no.
You're not?
Didn't play enough. So, you know.
If you're in the crowd, though, would you abuse an official if they made a bad call?
It's not really my thing. Like Enzo said, you know, they're not trying to be bad at what they're doing. They're doing their best, and they're using the information that's in front of them. So shouting at them doesn't help the situation in making them make the right calls, you know. So it's amazing the amount of abuse these guys have. It's like, who wants to run for 90 minutes and be shouted at for 90 minutes?
I think it's even worse in the youth league also, because we just have the same refs over and over and again.
Yeah.
So they'll do easily 6-7 hours at a venue, right?
It's a lot of
And it's just
games.
game after game after game, right? So if you're getting the game at 3 or 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
the guy might have been there since 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
7 o'clock for call time.
And like you mentioned, you're being shouted out by individuals who might know less than you, who don't even know the game.
But they're definitely not qualified,
Yeah.
right? So all these officials are qualified. They've gone through whatever process to get themselves qualified as a referee.
Yeah. But the worst thing about it is if you look over the sideline, you see your dad and you see your mom abusing the referee. What message is that sending to your kid? So your kid is then now feeling empowered to abuse the referee as well.
And how does that make you feel as kids if you see your parents abusing? Embarrassing, right?
Embarrassing. It's disappointing as well.
Yeah.
And what we notice in Europe is that they're very respectful for the refs. And
Except in that example there.
Except that. When we went to Switzerland, the first thing we found out is that they formally they call their refs sometimes in Zurich they call them Mister, they call him Herr Fischer. So we so much show them respect, and at the same time, that's the thing they want to instill on the players, that football is also about respect. About a lot of the things now football is trying to promote is fairness, equality, respect, and if people continue to bash the referees, it's just going against everything football aims to promote and stand for.
Yeah, it's a great point. Go ahead, Mick. You want to say something?
So one thing I want to talk about is I remember last year in one of our YFL games, there was this incident where the coach actually shouting at the ref, and he actually got a red card. I know you guys remember that. And then he walked off. He just went in his car and he left the game. and then I noticed that the kids were really embarrassed for the coach, which is really which is really bad for the development of the club.
Yeah. Okay.
I really feel for the refs because not only do they have to run for 90 minutes, which is already a hard task, they have to run for 90 minutes, and while doing that, they have to pay attention of every aspect of the game. And the fact that people are screaming at them, what can the ref do about it? Try and putting yourself in his place. It's not easy task at all. And like you've said, it's the same refs a lot of times in our games. So imagine they play in U9 games, U11 games, U13 games just in one day. Imagine how burnt out they are already. So we should be we should feel for them, and we should just instead of screaming at them, just let the game go on, because the more you scream at the ref, possibly he'll even go against your team.
That happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Enzo.
Well, I think going back to what Diego was saying about the respect that they have in Europe, I mean, obviously it's not perfect. It will never be perfect. We're all humans. But we had a game, and it was a pretty tight game, and we had a through ball. The ref called it offside, but then they actually had a man who was all the way back. You remember that, right, Diego? Yeah. So he called it offside. Coach Thomas was fuming, absolutely fuming. It was 1-1 or 0-0 at the time, fuming like crazy. But the referee came to Coach Thomas, I think. He raised his hands up. He apologized. And then after that, tensions just died down. And then I think that's the important thing, having the respect for the referee. He acknowledges his mistake, and you don't hold it against him.
Yeah. I think one of the key issues here is twofold with the officiating. One is they don't really get the backing that they deserve. So things like from the federation, I don't think is actually having them go and do enough instructions, do enough courses to enable them to be of an elevated standard. Because one of the frustrations that I know we have is some of the errors are glaring. When they don't know the full rules and stuff like that. Yeah. That is frustrating. We've all been at those tournaments where they're like, oh, he doesn't know the back pass rule, he doesn't know this rule, he doesn't know that rule. And it is frustrating. But I think what these guys are really intimating is that, look, listen, they're doing their best with what they have. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. But they are humans, and they don't deserve to be abused, because at the end of the day, the game wouldn't take place if it wasn't for these people. And they're, going out on a Saturday and Sunday morning and giving up their time, probably earning very little money to go and officiate these games. And I think it's only going to dwindle in terms of numbers if people continue to be abusive, which to be honest, we see that quite a lot. And I know I'm guilty of it from time to time. More so as a player. When I played, I would abuse the referee.
Really?
Yeah, a lot.
Really?
A lot. I would abuse the referees a lot. In my mind, it's justified. In my mind, I think if it's on the pitch in a pro game, I would do whatever it takes to win. Mm-hmm. And if I think I can influence a referee to give me a decision one way or another, I will do it. Is it right? Maybe not, but whatever. I'll do what needs to be done to get the win. Would I advise 16-year-old kids doing it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So do as I say, not as I do. Okay, that's the message there.
As you did.
As I did.
That was a previous version of Chris.
No, because I reckon if I do join in sessions, I'm still really abusive towards officials. Even if it's Coach Thomas taking a session and I jump in, I'm still going to abuse him. So.
Players versus coaches.
Right? I always blame the referees.
It's hilarious.
There we go.
Just full disclosure.
Full disclosure. Yeah, I'm open. I'm honest. I won't lie. I can't lie to these boys. So yeah, I mean, what I would like to discuss a little bit is, what does the future hold, in your opinion, for Philippine football? Like, do you think it's a bright horizon? Like, do you think there's a pipeline of really talented players coming through? What's your sort of take on the brightness of Philippine football? Go ahead, Teo.
Like I've been watching the Azkals for like a few years. I remember I attended the game like a few years ago where we beat Sri Lanka like 4-0 or something, and we were like amazed that we beat a team like that. We thought it would never happen, and then now we're here tying China 0-0.
Yeah.
And like a few years ago we had the PFL, right? And I just think that that's like a really good idea, like the home and away part of it, like the fact that each club gets their own city that they have, like Kaya was based in Makati before, and I attended like the home games.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's how you get people to watch, because they don't support a team because they like the players. They support a team because that's where they're born, that's where they're from. It's like their identity.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I mean, continuing from what he said, like you look at Europe, right? Like people make jokes about it. You can change your girlfriend, you can change your wife, but you can never, ever change your football team, and because it's really just part of your identity. And I think without that home and away structure, it's something that is kind of lacking in the Philippine Football League at the moment. I mean, if Kaya, like for us, Kaya, it's not their fault, but it's just the league structure as a whole.
Yeah.
If Kaya is Kaya FC Iloilo, but but all the games are played in the NCR. I mean, what do the people from Iloilo? I mean, what do they think? Are they really Iloilo? It's just a name. It's just a front that they're putting up.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think that's diluted the league a little bit?
Well, yeah. Again, the reason that they're doing this, the reason that there's no more home and away structure is because of the financial reasons.
Yeah.
But I think, going back to what I said, investment. It's going to be, they're not going to be making that much money for now. But if you do put in the money for the home and away structure, more people will watch the games. That causes promotion, and that just means positives for the entire footballing community of the Philippines.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What you, Diego?
And at the same time, I feel like the Philippine footballs is going on a good track at the same time, because knowing that the league are getting more and more sponsors each year, and being able to be sponsored by like companies such as Qatar, and soon being able to have that financial stability in the league. It's gonna a lot of the teams in the past years, such as teams such as Davao that aren't here this season, and Global that were absent last year. That was primarily due to financial reasons. And knowing that with more sponsors and more financial stability, it's gonna be able to promote and bring in more teams, not just in just the Luzon and NCR region, but teams also in Visayas, such as places in Cebu and Mindanao, and just being able to expand the game of football, not just in Luzon, because a lot of the times football is just seen in the Luzon area, and we fail to see the talent that is also present in places such as Visayas and Mindanao. And that's when the only time we're able to see that is such as national team tryouts, and maybe things when we go there to like Bacolod, and that's the only times we're able to realize that, okay, football is really something that the Philippines can be really good for, because we know that the Filipinos are, if football is able to spread, the Filipinos are able to devote more time into it, and that's going to be put football on a good track.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate because looking at the AFC, the game last night, or a couple nights ago, but Ceres played Bal United.
Yeah.
4-0 here. But, I mean, the stadium was it empty because of the corona?
Coronavirus,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
empty. But even then, even if it wasn't closed, we wouldn't have that, that support that Bali would have if they played there in Jakarta, in Indonesia, in Bali. But it's unfortunate because we do have that quality, or the Philippine Football League does have that quality. Like we do have the capabilities to promote football and have support from people around.
Yeah.
Because if the best team in the Philippines is gonna beat one of the best teams in Indonesia, I mean,
Back easily.
yeah. That 4-0, and if you watch a Bali game, Persebaya game, all the games in the Liga 1 in Indonesia, crazy amount of fans, 20,000, 30,000, full stadiums every single game, night in, night out. So it's just unfortunate that we don't have that support.
Yeah.
I think that actually, like, you look at it now, you see Kaya FC and Ceres, they're really competing really well in the AFC Cup. Like, Ceres won the AFC Cup. They're one game away from getting into the AFC Champions League. We weren't this level about 6 years ago. We were nowhere close. And now you see like the improvement, like Kirby said, beating Bali United 4-0, beating all these teams that they beat Port FC, I think, in Thailand.
Yeah.
That's a really good improvement. And I think that transmits as well to the youth, saying that the Philippines, we do have potential, and it's your decision where you want to take it.
That's brilliant. Great. Thanks, Gwen. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Ceres is a relatively new club, right? When was it? 2012.
Yeah.
2012. Oh, what year was it?
Yeah, around that sort of
Okay,
period, yeah.
Pretty recent, not old at all, not even a decade old. But if you see that improvement from a super young club, I mean, what could it mean for youth who are really already developing? Imagine if they had that backing financially, you know, that support that a club would give them. Imagine how much better they could get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Mick, anything?
I mean, what they said, they pretty much cleared everything, but like, it comes down to the promotion and investment. Because at the end of the day, look, our Kaya first team, they work so hard. They organize, the AFC organizes everything just to play in front of what, like, not even 1,000 fans. 400. Yeah, not even. Yeah. I just think it's unfair, and we need more people we need more promotion, more footballing in the Philippines to be more prevalent.
Great.
100%.
Well, you know what, guys? First of all, I want to say thank you for coming on the show and speaking so openly, so honestly, and eloquently on the show. I think, you know, one of the benefits that I've had since stepping away from first team football is being able to spend a lot more time with the youth, the youth teams we have. And you know, this group is a phenomenal group of not just footballers, but of young men. And I'm really happy that they got to come on the show and voice their opinions, because obviously they're not just robots. They have very strong opinions. They have a very informed opinion on a number of different issues, and are able to articulate that extremely well. So, yeah, I would love to say thank you for you guys for coming on. And yeah, some of that I think will hopefully reverberate throughout the youth football community, and I hope that a lot of people will listen to some of the things that you've said and some of the suggestions that you made, because I think a lot of what you said makes perfect sense. And when you've got a lot of people at the top of the tree who are making decisions who aren't as informed as you, because they're not on the ground, they're not playing in these games, they're not seeing the officiating, they're not witnessing the antics of the parents on the sideline, they're not seeing how by not investing in things it's going to impact you, specifically you guys, in the next 2, 4, 6, 10 years. They should be listening to you. And I'm glad that you were able to come on the show and speak as openly and as wonderfully as you did.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I learned a lot today. You know, like, I'm optimistic by nature about what's next in store for Philippine football. But speaking to you gentlemen makes me feel even better about what's on the horizon for Philippine football. So again, thank you for coming. And in a few years' time, hopefully we'll be able to speak again on this program.
Hopefully.
All right, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode on this Football Friday. 5 gentlemen here who represent sort of the youth of Philippine football and will provide us things to look forward to in years to come. Fantastic chat, Chris. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we hope you watch us on the next Football Friday.